After a long day at work, once I get into the house, I knock all the lights on, feed the cat, wash the dishes from the night before, and set off down to the gym. Working the long hours I do at the office will eventually destroy my posture if I let it, so keeping up the gym work is my way of preventing this and allows me to disconnect from work and home. I live in an end terrace house on a quiet street in a small town in England. I'm in my early 20s and recently moved here a couple months ago as living at home was getting too uncomfortable and needed to start to grow up a bit. My parents never pushed me out, but kept hinting at it. So I took the hint and moved out. Like my siblings above me, I have a younger sibling still living at home, so my parents will appreciate the silence, not like I'm loud though. The house I live in now is small, has two floors, ground and first floor, two bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, and living room. It seems to be an old mining building as the town I live in was built on the mining industry, so quality of the construction is better than that of the newer builds, but they were built with purpose back then. I like to get in from the gym and take a brisk walk around my neighborhood to clear my mind and get some time away from the computer screen. The neighborhood is very old. The building constructions range from the early 19th century to modern day. The nights are getting longer now as winter is closing in, so I leave for work early in the morning in the dark and get back later, so it's basically like I'm living in the dark all the time. After cooking some dinner and watching a few YouTube videos, I call it a night and head off for a shower. But first, I go around the house and lock all the doors and windows to ensure the house was safe and secure before heading for that shower. I headed into my room to get undressed and headed to the shower, leaving my bedroom door open ajar to let the cat wander in once he's finished his punch of food. I poured out prior to heading up, and I turned shower on and switched the extractor fan on to reduce the amount of steam that builds up in the room. While standing in the shower for about 5 minutes, I hear something strange coming from the hallway. I stop washing my hair and get most of the shampoo out of my hair that's dripping in my eye and pull my head from under the water for a couple seconds, but hear nothing. So I go back to rinsing my hair out to start to wash my body. Then I heard something again. Confused, I stop quicker this time and whip my head out of the way of the steam. I can hear a muffled, very faint singing, or what could be a lullaby, from which sounds like a woman. Confused as I haven't had any women around here for a while, as I am single, and, well, I hook up, occasionally. I was very confused, as none of them have ever had a key to the house. I quickly wash my body and wrap a towel around my waist and turn the shower off as quick as I can. I swing the door open and look down the hallway towards my room on the left, but see nothing there. Confused, I head back in and brush my teeth, head out of the door. I turn around and knock the light off. I walk over to my room on the laminated wooden floor and put some boxers on, dry myself, and head into bed. Thinking nothing of it, I turn over, knock the bedside table light off, and head to sleep. I wake up the following morning, head to work, and do the same thing I did the night prior. I jumped in the shower again, but heard nothing like I did the night before. A couple of weeks have passed since the strange sound, so that I heard in the hallway. But as October came in quickly and passed, November was already about to begin, so the nights were getting ever longer. This day, this day was different to the first encounter with the strange noises, as I had to stay back later to finish writing some documents up at work, so I didn't leave till 6 p.m. My usual finishing time was about 4. So due to me getting back home later than normal, I had to hurry back once I got to my car, as the cat, his name is Alfie, was outside and the rain was bouncing off the floor at this point, and it hadn't stopped for 3 hours now. So I was hoping he got under something dry and was able to keep out of the weather and not standing in the window looking in for me. I pulled into my estate and then my driveway, practically flying out of the car to not get drenched and make sure that Alfie was all right. I punched through my front door and took a couple steps into the house and saw that Alfie had just jumped up under the window as I got through the front door. I can see the kitchen once getting into the living room. I hurried through the back door and opened it up to let him in. He comes in with only a small amount of water on him, so he clearly was hiding under something as to not get that wet. I grab a towel from the towel rack above me and dry him off a little bit. I grab him some food and put it in his bowl. I hear the wind howling through the house and notice the door was not shut once I came in through it. Shit, I say as I run over, shut the door and lock it. I take my jacket off and hang it up on the coat rack at the bottom of the stairs in front of the door. Due to finishing so late, I have no time for the gym as it took me 15 minutes to get home and the gym shuts down at 8. So once getting settled, it wouldn't leave me much time. Regardless, I headed upstairs, got changed, and came back down to make some food up. Since it was a weekend, I had some beers in the fridge cooling off all day. I cracked one open and sat on the sofa to put a film on. About 15 minutes later, Alfie came over to join me by my side. I stick one of my favorite movies on, this being The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. After the intro plays, I make it about 20 minutes before I fall asleep. I wake up and notice I'm already halfway through the film and decide to call it a night. I switch my TV off and head upstairs to get a shower. This time, I leave my room light on. I get undressed, head into the shower. I switch the extractor fan on, then, being to clean myself, after only what feels like 2 to 3 minutes in the shower, I hear that sound again. I was a bit curious. It sounded like a woman was singing with what sounded like tears in the song this time, but it was significantly closer to the bathroom door this time, which was strange as the weather was horrendous outside. The rain sounded like it was going to tear through the house at any moment, like a bear in a camper's tent when it smelled food. So for the singing sound to sound this close, the door was very unnerving. I kept the shower on this time, but jump out, and without wrapping a towel around myself, I pulled the door open, expecting to get into a fight with an intruder naked. But there's no one there. Perplexed, I stand scanning around for a little bit and notice my bedroom light was off. Slightly confused, I explicitly remember switching it on. Brushing it off, I shut the door and finish off washing myself. But as I was about to turn the shower on, I hear it again. But this time it's right next to my door, like right in the corner of the door, and the singing is more distinct, but not in English. I can't make it out. I freeze in fear and just stand there listening to it. It must have gone on for some time as the water was pounding off my torso. What felt like an hour had passed, but was probably more like 5 minutes, it began to fade, as if she was moving away from the door and back towards the end of the hallway. I turn the shower off and it ends instantly. Really confused, scared, and worried that my house has a singing, weeping ghost lady in it, I dry myself quickly and head to my room. I open the door and head out towards the bedroom. The light is on again, bamboozled at this point, as I clearly seen I switched it off, and when I looked out before, I began to slowly walk towards my room. The floor is very cold on my feet. It feels like if I stopped for any amount of time, I would just stick to the floor as my feet were still soaked. The office and I walk in, and the wardrobe doors are both closed. I walk up to my room, and as I stop, as the doors open ajar, I stand staring into my room. I'm caught off guard. I see a woman sitting on the end of my bed with a candlelight in her hands, facing the doorway. She must be at least 3 meters from me. She is very pretty, but looks tired with big bags under her eyes. She has an old-style candle in her hands, her index finger through the handle, with some wax already in the tray. Her skin is slightly blue. She looks cold. Her hands are a darker blue with long, uncut nails. She has very little clothing on, as I can see everything very clearly through her gown. She looks wet, like she has been dropped in a pool or out at sea. She looks to be in her mid to early 30s. I stood in the doorway of my room, frozen in fear. She begins to sing that familiar lullaby I've heard a couple times now, but in a softer voice. But this time she changes one verse to English so I can understand it with a joyful, childlike tone. Here we are, here we are. You failed to set us free. Here we are, here we are. Now you've got to come with me. As she finishes her sentence, she stands up very abruptly and takes a very slow step towards me, like she's moving in slow motion. Her face begins to change. It got old fast. All her skin under her gown begins to do the same. Her jaw opens up like that of a snake, but nothing comes out. That's until she moves a few feet closer to me when a siren-like scream comes from her mouth, and I drop to the ground and cover my ears and drop my head towards my knees as she advances me. My head is pulled up from my hands like some unseen force has hold of me, and I'm greeted by her beautiful young face again as she stares into my eyes. The bags under her eyes have disappeared. Both of our eyes lock together as her hazel eyes turn to a deep black. She begins to sing the lullaby one more time. Here we are. You failed to set us free. Here we are. Now you've got to come with me. Then the force releases. I get a chance to lift my head up when I see that she has sat back down on my bed as she was before with the candle in hand. She is still facing me. She then abruptly disappears. I stand up after pulling myself together and look over at my bed where she was sitting. There's a mark left on the bed where her bum was. This confirms that it wasn't an apparition, it was someone in my room. I turn around and see her standing in my doorway with a netted bag full of what looks to be human heads, each one murmuring as if they were trying to talk, but having much luck as they haven't got a voice box. She raises what looks to be a short sword up from her side and swings it in my direction at lightning speed. The last thing I saw was her beautiful face turn black and filled with malice. Her pupils narrow and begin to focus in on me. I feel myself fall to the ground but felt no pain. A little while later, my body falls in front of me. She walks over to me with a slight limp in her step. She grabbed me by my hair and pulled me up to her face and kissed my cheek. She threw my head into the bag, and I could feel the skin of the other heads rubbing against my own. She put my head in such a place as to allow me to see out the side of the netting. The last thing I saw was her walk over to the bathroom and plunge into my bath, which was full of water. Well, I assume it was.